What if that pretty storage bin on your shelf isn't helping you? It's quietly trapping you? We don't like to think of it that way. After all, it looks tidy. It's labeled. It fits perfectly under the bed. But here's the truth that no one talks about. Storage is often just guilt with a lid. You didn't deal with it, so you boxed it. That's not decluttering. That's deferring. And the more storage we buy, the more permission we give ourselves to delay decisions we don't want to face. It's why so many homes feel organized but still feel emotionally heavy. Behind every closed lid, there's a quiet voice saying, "I should go through this someday." But someday never comes. Especially after 60, when the house gets quieter, but the stuff starts to speak louder. It reminds us of things we used to do, people we miss, roles we no longer play. So let's ask the real question today. Are you organizing for peace, or just hiding the pressure? Because sometimes, the neatest spaces are the most emotionally cluttered. Do you ever find yourself buying more storage instead of letting go? Be honest, drop it in the comments. Adelia Tompkins wasn't just organized, she was legendary for it. At 72, she had become the unofficial system queen of Silent Springs, a quiet suburb in Arizona where the desert air met stillness and retirees moved to simplify. A retired nurse with decades of discipline behind her, Adelia applied that same steady hand to her home. Everything had a label, a place, a system. Her pantry looked like a magazine spread. Her garage? Wall-to-wall shelving with matching beige totes, each one marked in crisp handwriting, seasonal linens, tax papers 1994 to 2001, wedding favors, unused. Upstairs in the attic, there were boxes stacked like monuments, years of birthdays, forgotten gadgets, holiday dishes, and keepsakes from a life that had touched many. She called them her neatly boxed memories. Friends would visit and marvel, "You're so organized. I wish my house looked like this." But when the door closed behind them, the quiet crept in. The space was full, but it didn't feel alive. What Adelia didn't say out loud was that her home no longer brought her peace. It felt heavier every year. And lately, she'd started avoiding entire rooms. The guest room was now just storage. The hallway closet held bins instead of coats. One Sunday, she stood in her garage mid-task, label maker in hand, about to mark a bin mixed chords, maybe useful. And then, she paused. Something inside her flickered. She looked at the bin, then around the garage. She'd been at this for hours. Not decluttering. Not downsizing. Just shifting. Preserving. Avoiding. It wasn't a tragic moment. No accident, no loss. Just a sudden realization, sharp and quiet. I've spent years organizing what I should have been letting go of. That moment cracked her illusion wide open. And what came next? It wasn't what most people expect. Because Adelia didn't grab a trash bag and purge. She did something far more radical. She began to ask herself why she'd been storing her life instead of living it. And that changed everything. There's a quiet kind of clutter that doesn't make noise or cause tripping hazards. It doesn't spill into hallways or fill up entire rooms. It's tucked away neatly, stacked, sorted, sealed, and labeled with good intentions. It's the kind of clutter we keep just in case. Just in case someone visits and needs extra bedding. Just in case there's a church potluck and you need 5 plastic containers. Just in case you decide to take up gardening again and those faded jeans come in handy. The items themselves aren't the problem. It's the promise they carry. They whisper, "You might need me someday." But someday often never comes. And in the meantime, those items slowly fill your space and your mind. A recent survey from senior living researchers across the US uncovered a trend many don't talk about: silent clutter anxiety. It's not hoarding. It's not chaos. It's the emotional weight of what we've stored but haven't resolved. A drawer of half-burned candles. A closet full of coats someone might want. A tote of cables you can't identify but feel bad throwing out. You don't see the clutter because it's hidden. But you feel it. It's the reason opening certain cabinets makes your chest tighten. It's why organizing never feels finished, no matter how many bins you buy. For many seniors, especially those living alone or in retirement, Storage becomes a way to avoid hard decisions. But avoiding the decision doesn't remove the emotion, it just buries it deeper. And here's the cost. Every box you keep just in case is space you lose right now. Space for ease. For movement. For peace. And maybe, for things that actually support the life you live today, not the life you left behind. Ask yourself, are these items preparing you for something, or protecting you from facing something? Have you ever opened a bin and felt a rush of guilt or sadness? Not because of what's inside, but because of what it represents? Let us know below. You're not alone in this. And the first step isn't tossing it all. It's seeing it clearly. There's something deeply satisfying about clicking a lid shut on a packed container. It feels like closure. Like order. Like you've taken control of the mess. But here's the trick storage plays on us. It feels like progress, but it's often just pause. You didn't resolve the clutter, you just rearranged it. You didn't face the emotion, you just boxed it. It's comforting. Temporarily. But that feeling fades. Because every time you pass that neatly labeled bin, your brain quietly remembers. There's a choice in there you still haven't made. Think about that one hallway cabinet you never open. The extra drawers in the guest room. The bottom bin marked misc, sentimental. You see, storage lets us pretend we've taken action, when what we've really done is postpone the discomfort. It's like sweeping your worries into a drawer. From the outside, everything looks fine. But you know better. Because now the drawer won't close easily. And every time you walk by, it pulls a little at the edges of your peace. Recent neuroscience backs this up. Postponed decisions, especially emotional ones, drain mental energy. Your brain keeps that file open in the background. Even if your living room looks spotless, your mind stays cluttered. And over time, seniors who avoid sentimental or identity-laden items report higher levels of mental fatigue. Not because they are surrounded by chaos, but because their order is built on delay. And the kicker? The older we get, the more mental clarity matters. Not just for peace, but for sharpness, sleep, and stability. So the question isn't, do you have bins? It's, what decisions have you been postponing beneath the lid? Which space in your home is secretly just organized delay? Be honest, we all have one. Call it out in the comments. Naming it is the first step toward releasing it. It happened on a quiet Thursday afternoon. Adelia was in her kitchen labeling a tray of silver napkin rings, ones she hadn't used since her 40th wedding anniversary, when she heard the sirens. Just down the street, a neighbor's shed had caught fire. Small, containable. But for those few tense minutes, it was unclear if it would spread. Standing by her window, Adelia watched fire trucks race in, hoses snake through fences, neighbors pacing on their lawns. And then a thought hit her. Not dramatic. Just clear. If it were my house, and I had 3 minutes, what would I grab? She scanned the room with sudden urgency. Her eyes landed on the bins lining the hallway closet. Then the garage shelves. Then the attic door. Dozens of containers. All labeled. All organized. But in that moment, they didn't feel like treasures. They felt like barriers. Not one bin contained something she would have rushed to save. The truth shook her. She realized the things she truly loved weren't hidden, they were already out. A framed photo of her late husband on the bookshelf. The quilt her mother made, draped over the couch. A note from her grandson, magnet to the fridge. Everything else? It wasn't protecting her. It was weighing her down. And it wasn't just the space. It was her time, her attention, her peace. In that moment, she saw it plainly. She'd spent years preserving items she no longer recognized, while avoiding the ones that still made her feel alive. The next morning, she did something she never thought she would. She walked into the garage, stared at the wall of bins, and said out loud, "It's time." What she did next wasn't random. She didn't just toss things into donation bags. She made a list. She made a plan. And she created something that changed the entire feel of her home. Without losing anything that truly mattered. What did she do with 40 bins that weekend? You'll never guess. And more importantly, you can do it too. The next steps she took weren't extreme, but they were intentional. And they started with one surprising rule. Let's walk through them next. Step 1. Don't start with the hard stuff. Here's where even the most determined person can get stuck. They start with the hardest box first. You know the one. It's in the back of the closet, sealed tight, labeled keepsakes or family things, or worse, has no label at all. You open it and within minutes, you're holding a tiny pair of baby shoes. A wedding program. A handwritten recipe card from someone who's gone. And just like that, the project ends before it even begins. Not because you're lazy, because you're human. Decluttering after 60 isn't just about space, it's about memory, identity, grief, and meaning. So don't walk straight into the emotional fire. Start small. Start neutral. Start easy. Go after the stuff with zero sentimental weight, the things that are just there. Like that drawer full of rubber bands, twist ties, and broken pens. The duplicate spatulas, 6 of them, but you only use the same 2. That stash of expired batteries or old chargers you haven't matched to a device in a decade. 3 flashlights, none of which work reliably. These aren't decisions. They are tune-ups. And every small win builds momentum. Because here's the truth, starting easy trains your brain to let go. You practice detachment. You get used to the rhythm of release. You prove to yourself, I can make decisions and survive them. And by the time you reach those heavier boxes later, the ones with emotion woven in, you're stronger, clearer, less afraid. Don't let guilt trick you into believing you should tackle the hardest stuff first. You wouldn't lift a heavy barbell without warming up your joints. So why ask your heart to do the emotional equivalent of deadlifting a memory box on day 1? Let easy be your entry point. You'll be amazed at how much lighter your space, and your spirit, can feel after just 15 minutes with the junk drawer. So let's make it real. What's the easiest category you could clear out today? No guilt, no drama. Drop it in the comments. Because sometimes, all it takes is one clear drawer to remind you you're not stuck. Step 2. Reframe storage as a delay button. Not all storage is helpful, some of it quietly robs you of peace. Take a look around. See that tidy stack of bins in the hallway closet? The ones labeled with just enough purpose to avoid questioning them? Missed cords. Old fabrics for crafts. Extra kitchen items. These aren't solutions. They are pauses. Not decisions, deferrals. You didn't decide what to do with those cords, you delayed it. You didn't evaluate those clothes, you postponed the moment. Most people think if it fits in a bin, it's under control. But here's the truth, when you store without deciding, you're not organizing, you're just escaping the discomfort of letting go. Ask yourself, what stopped me from making a real decision the day I packed this away? Was it uncertainty? A tug of guilt? Fear of regret? Storage often disguises emotional discomfort as productivity. But when the lid clicks shut, the question remains, just quieter. Bins become silent placeholders for conversations you never had. Conversations like, am I still that person who saves these broken chargers? Do I still paint, or do I just want to feel like someone who might start again? If I haven't used this in a decade, am I holding on to the object, or the story I attach to it? Here's the shift. Start treating every bin as a question, not a solution. And only keep what answers you with clarity, not avoidance. Because the more space you reserve for postponed choices, the less room you leave for what matters now. So be honest with yourself. What's the one storage box in your home you've carefully avoided for years, because facing it would mean deciding something real? Call it out in the comments. That box might be the door to the clarity you've been looking for. Step 3. Choose visibility over volume. A home filled with hidden treasures is still a home full of shadows. After 60, your space should reflect who you are, not who you were afraid to disappoint by letting go. And yet, so many of us keep meaningful things tucked away, out of sight, buried behind linens or stashed in the back of a cupboard. Why? Because we were taught to protect the special stuff. To save the good dishes for guests. To keep heirlooms safe by hiding them. But protection without presence turns memories into storage, not legacy. It's time for a shift. If it matters, let it breathe. That jacket that still fits just right, the one you wore on your last trip with your spouse? Hang it where you'll see it. The vase your mother gave you? Don't box it, fill it with flowers and give it life again. Still sipping from a stained mug out of habit while your favorite one collects dust? Flip that script. The things you truly love should be seen, touched, used, not archived. This isn't about showing off, it's about showing up for your own story. Because every item you bring into the light has the power to reconnect you with who you are and what you value now. When everything you love is out of view, your home stops reflecting your spirit. But when those few, deeply personal items take center stage, you don't just declutter your space, you reignite meaning. Ask yourself, what are you honoring more, what's visible or what's hidden? Because the best pieces of your life shouldn't be buried beneath stacks of someday. Start small. One shelf. One object. Let it stand alone, not lost in a crowd. Let it represent you, not your storage habits. Is there a keepsake you've stored away that should finally take center stage? Tell us in the comments. You might find that sharing it is the first step in reclaiming it. Step 4. The one lid rule. Let's be honest, limits make us nervous. Especially when it comes to the things we've saved for decades. Every photo, every handwritten note, every child's drawing feels important. But the truth is, without limits, we lose meaning. When everything is kept, nothing stands out. And soon, what once mattered most is buried beneath just in case and maybe one day. That's where the one lid rule comes in. It's simple, clear, and, if you're willing, transformational. One lidded bin per category. That's it. Not one for each child. Not one for every season of your life. Not one per shelf, per closet, per excuse. Just one. One bin for winter clothing. One for letters you can't part with. One for family photos that truly tell your story. And when that bin is full, you make a choice. You don't stack another. You edit. You reflect. You prioritize. This is not about restriction, it's about freedom. Boundaries create clarity. Clarity creates peace. And peace is what you've earned at this stage of life. Here's the surprising benefit. When you know you only have one container, your mind works differently. You don't hold on to duplicates. You don't keep things out of guilt. You select with care. Suddenly, every item in that bin means something real. No filler. No clutter. Just the essence of what you chose to preserve. It's not about being minimal. It's about being intentional. One lid. One boundary. One clear line between what stays with you and what you're finally ready to release. Now ask yourself, if you had just one bin for memories, what would absolutely have to go in it? We'd love to hear it in the comments. Your answer might be the reminder someone else needed today. Step 5. Create a legacy corner, fresh, current tip. Across the US, a quiet trend is taking hold, one that's replacing dusty storage bins with something far more powerful, legacy corners. These aren't cluttered shelves or museum-style shrines. They're intentional, open spaces in your home where a few carefully chosen items tell your story without a single word. Instead of sealing away memories in plastic tubs labeled MISC, seniors are creating small displays that say, "This mattered. This still matters. And I want it to be part of my daily life." Picture this. A handwritten love letter, framed beside your wedding photo. Your navy cap, sitting neatly on a shelf next to a softly burning candle. A well-worn quilt, folded over your favorite chair, not hidden, not preserved, but lived with. It's not about decorating. It's about declaring, this is who I am, this is where I've been, and this is what I carry forward. Psychologists call it visible legacy integration. It helps strengthen emotional continuity, spark conversation, and reduce feelings of isolation, especially for older adults living alone or navigating retirement transitions. Because when your memories are visible, they're not just preserved. They are shared. And sharing makes them real again, not just for you, but for your children, grandchildren, and guests who pause to ask, what's the story behind this? And here's the best part. Legacy corners naturally limit themselves. You're not trying to display everything, just what truly resonates. It encourages reflection, selection, and even release. Creating one doesn't require a budget or a decorator. Just a small space, a few meaningful pieces, and the willingness to give them room to breathe. So now ask yourself, would you create a legacy corner in your home? And more importantly, what's the one item you'd put there first? Tell us in the comments. Your answer might just inspire someone else to stop boxing their story and start living with it. Adelia didn't start with a goal of getting rid of 70% of her storage bins. She simply wanted her home to feel like hers again. Not a warehouse of well-labeled memories. Not a shrine to a past she was too afraid to sort through. But once she got started, the change took on a rhythm. 1 bin became 5. 5 became 15. And within a few weekends, decades of boxed-up somedays were no longer sitting in silent judgment from the attic. She didn't do it recklessly. She handled each item with care. She asked herself, not do I still want this, but does this still live with me today? And when the dust settled, what remained surprised her. Not the heirloom china. Not the stacks of printed emails or the dozens of gift bags she once thought she might reuse. Just 3 things, on one open shelf. Her late husband's navy cap, faded but still perfectly shaped. A photo of herself at age 9, wild-haired and wide-eyed in front of a lemonade stand. A framed note from her grandson that simply said, "You make everything feel safe." That shelf didn't feel sparse. It felt sacred. And something in her shifted. She said, "Now, when I walk through my home, I see my life, not my fear of losing it." She no longer walked through rooms avoiding corners. Her breath came easier. She stopped waking up at 3 a.m. with mental to-do lists about what still needed to be sorted or saved. And perhaps most beautifully, her granddaughter started visiting more. Not to help declutter, but to sit beside her on the couch, look at that small shelf, and ask, what's the story behind this one? That's when Adelia realized she hadn't just cleared space. She'd opened room for connection, for storytelling, for peace. She hadn't lost her past. She had finally allowed it to live in the present, where it could breathe, speak, and be seen. At 60, 70, or 80, you've earned the right to live in a space that reflects who you are now, not who you once were, or who others expected you to be. You don't need more plastic bins. You don't need more categories. You need breathing room. You need clarity. You need the quiet freedom that comes when every object in your home feels like it belongs there, with purpose. Because here's the truth. You've already done the hard part. You lived the stories. You held the people. You wore the jacket. You received the letter. And now, it's okay to let some of it go, not because it didn't matter, but because it already did. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's choosing to carry the meaning, not the material. You've lived too much life to spend your time managing stuff that no longer speaks to who you are. Let it go. Not because it meant nothing, but because it already served its meaning. If this video helped shift something in you, tap like, subscribe to Wise Aging Seniors, and share this with someone whose closet is full, but heart still feels heavy. And tell us in the comments, what's one thing you're finally ready to let go of this week? Your story doesn't belong in a box. It belongs in the room with you.